all the recordings. Okay, well, good morning again, everybody, from all of us here on the NEMA staff. So we do have a smaller group today. Before I get rolling on kind of my prepared spiel, I wanted to check in and see, do people want to hear the kind of whole overview and then ask questions, or do people have specific questions they want answered and that's all they really are worried about? Because I'm happy to just do this Q&A style if people would prefer, but I'm also happy to do the overview slides and all, if that would be helpful for people. Anybody have a strong preference? No. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do the slides. I will try to speak more slowly than I did last time around, because that's like the ongoing joke among the NEMA staff that I talk way too fast. So I will do that, and please feel free to interrupt me at any point with questions or drop them in the chat or whatever works for you. And if I don't see them in the chat, someone else on the NEMA staff will interrupt me on your behalf. Okay. Okay, here we go. We are very, very happy to have you all here as conference speakers. One last reminder, in case there's anybody left here who has not done it, or you think there may be someone on your panel who has not done it, please make sure everybody's registered for conference by the end of this week, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of trouble getting in. There are lots of options for registering. If you have folks who are only coming to your session to speak, and then they're not attending the rest of conference, session only is an option. You do have to select speaker registration first in order to be able to get to that option. And of course, there's the option for attending just one day, reduced registration for hardship reasons, etc. The scholarship and fellowship deadlines have passed, but thank you, Scarlett, for dropping that in the chat. Okay, as in previous years, since about 2015, we've been using Whova, which has expanded from just being a conference app to being the entire conference platform. So you can access it both from your desktop and from a tablet or iPhone or whatever else you prefer to use. We do recommend that for the purposes of actually presenting that you use a desktop connection, but it can be helpful to have Whova open on a tablet or iPhone or something, so that you can be keeping track of chat or questions and answers through the app while you've also got your presentation happening. Chrome is Whova's preferred browser. We have tested it some on some of the other browsers, but if you find yourself with freezing issues or audio issues or other things like that, we do recommend trying swapping browsers. Because you are all speakers, you will have access to the speaker hub through both the app and the desktop version, which will be able to shortcut you straight to the questions coming in for your session, links straight to the sessions that you are speaking at, and also the opportunity to, through Whova, promote your session through social media and things like that with links and descriptions and hashtags and all that good stuff. We do recommend that you go ahead and drum up some excitement for your session by talking about it on Twitter or whatever in the next 2 weeks, because hey, we want everybody to be excited for conference. We certainly are. We feel like there's a great conference lineup this year. Okay. On the day of your session, we will have sent you a unique speaker link by email that will also have for folks who need to be able to, if they have problems with links, if you need to phone in or be able to like dial in with the meeting ID and stuff, all that information will be available for you if the link doesn't work. Make sure that you're not forwarding that email to, say, the rest of your panel, because if you do, they may use your link and you'll all be signing in and there will be 4 Jan Crockers in a room instead of Jan and her 3 panelists, which will confuse people. That being said, this is why it is incredibly important that you make sure all your fellow panelists register, because if they have not registered, we do not have their emails and we will not be able to get them in their unique Zoom links. So unless you have asked us to do a breakout room or meeting style format, all of your attendees will be watching through Whova, and they will not be in the Zoom room with you. So the way it works is that Whova is essentially a frame. You as the presenters will be using Zoom to access and do your presentation. But everybody else is going to be seeing it kind of broadcast style as a webinar through the Whova platform. So you will not be able to see how many people are in the room with you, because they won't be in the room with you. They're going to be watching it, as if it's a TV broadcast or a YouTube streaming or something like that. And they will be participating through the Whova chat features. And if you're dropping links into, the Zoom chat features, they won't be able to see them. So that's very, very important. And we will be going over that again in future. But if you are doing something that is town hall format, where people need to be able to talk back to you, or you want to be able to do breakout rooms, you need to let me know by Friday so that we can set up your room as a meeting style format instead of a webinar style format, because that makes a difference. And if you do want meeting and breakout room style format, what will happen is there will be a link on Whova that your attendees will click on, and it will basically bounce them into Zoom, so that you're in a meeting like this, where it's lots of boxes with everybody's heads, or black boxes with people's names, since an awful lot of people have some pretty serious Zoom fatigue at this point. So a lot of people are doing cameras off. We do recommend, for kind of the ease of the attendees' use and everything, that unless you really, really, really need their audio feedback and the breakout room capability, we do recommend that you stick with webinar format, because that ultimately is the smoothest audience experience. But we do want to make it possible for you to be able to have conversations with folks if that's what you want and need for the format of your session. So just let me know by Friday, November 5th, if you need meeting format. Plan on signing in. Click your link to sign in about 10 minutes early for setup, so that you can check in with all of your fellow panelists and the conference ambassador and or NEMA staffer who will be there in the room with you to assist. That way you can check sound levels, connections, make sure everybody's ready to do screen sharing, all of that good stuff. The conference ambassador or NEMA staff will be welcoming you all to the room so that everybody knows they're in the right place, do any troubleshooting necessary before the session starts. If your session has been selected by a sponsor as part of their sponsorship package, then the conference ambassador will have 1 or 2 sponsorship videos to show at the start of the session, and they will be the ones in charge of doing things like enabling the auto transcription, which you can see an example of going on at the bottom of the screen right now. If you are presenting alone, or you need some help with monitoring the Q&A, you can ask the conference ambassador at that point if they would be willing to help you monitor that. And they will also do end of session timekeeping. So they'll give you a 5-minute warning to the end of the session, because the concurrent sessions have about a 15-minute gap between each of them, but that will be happening on the Zoom channel, kind of following each other at a reasonable clip. So you need to be able to be ending your session on time, so that the people who are coming in to the Zoom room next have the same opportunity to do their troubleshooting and setup that you did. The conference ambassador is not responsible for timekeeping within your session. So make sure you panelists know how much time each person needs and are keeping track of that. Because the conference ambassador is only in charge of making sure that we don't run over as a whole. Does anybody have any questions so far? How's my speed, Heather?
Much better.
Yes, I do have a question.
Shoot, go ahead, Ida.
Yes, for the timekeeping, when they give us a heads up that we have, 5-minute warning or whatever, how is that done? How will we see that? Will we be the only ones to see that? Or?
Well, you can work that out with your conference ambassador. Some of them can put like a warning in the chat for you, or sometimes they will hold up a sign on screen. Or if you want an audible interruption, just to say heads up, everybody, 5 minutes left. I think we have time for 2 more questions or whatever. You can just go ahead and talk to the conference ambassador about how you would best like them to do your time check.
Okay.
The facilitator should also be keeping an eye on the time as well, because sometimes because I've had sessions before where it's a little awkward for me to have to interrupt someone. So it's definitely a good idea just to make sure that everybody is very much aware of like the session ends at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. I find it useful to actually use my cell phone with like a silent alarm so that it'll like buzz on my desk right there so that I know how much time I've got left.
Okay.
All right.
I also have a question, if you don't mind. If our session is one of the ones that's sponsored, roughly how much time out of our chunk of time should we allot for the videos, just when we're planning?
Like a minute or 2. They're short.
Less than that, they're very short.
Yeah, most of them are 30 seconds. So it shouldn't be more than a minute or 2 max in terms of the conference ambassador saying, welcome everybody, please enjoy our sponsor videos. Okay, we're done. Now I'm passing it over to, the speakers for today's panel.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So our panel is right after the keynote on the first morning. So if we're in Whova for the keynote, so we have that open, then we can still open the Zoom and do the panel, or should we get out of that?
I would say the only thing you want to make sure you're doing is if you have multiple screens open, make sure that you say mute the Whova window so that you're not getting echo through into your Zoom feed.
Oh yeah, right. We might get echo. Okay, so probably be better maybe to sign out of that and then do the Zoom.
Yeah, whatever's easier for you. I would just say make sure it's either muted or minimized or whatever so that your focus is on the Zoom and you don't get the audio feedback.
Okay.
That's a really good question, Marilyn. Thank you.
But just make sure that one person at least is on the Whova app, because if you're doing the webinar format, all of your chat and all your questions that will be written out will be in Whova and not on Zoom.
Right.
So someone's going to need to keep an eye on that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a very important distinction. And it will probably come up a couple more times in this conversation. But yes, again, reminder, unless you're doing meeting format that bounces all of the attendees out of Whova into Zoom, then, that is the only case in which the chat will be happening in Zoom. So if you are doing webinar format, it's just the speakers in the Zoom room. Everybody else is seeing it through the Whova frame, and all of their audience interaction is happening on the Whova platform through that built-in question and answer, that built-in chat feature. So yes, you do need to make sure that there's somebody on your panel who is comfortable with keeping an eye on that while the presentation is happening. Okay.
Meg?
Screen sharing. Yes, Dan, go ahead.
Just to follow up and get clarity with Marilyn's question, if you're watching the keynote video or the keynote session, and then you've got a presentation immediately after or whenever, the thing is you're not going to access your own presentation through Whova anyway. You go to your unique link that you've been emailed, correct? So that you show up.
That is how you access it as a speaker. Yes.
Right, as a speaker. Right. So yes. Okay.
But somebody needs to have the Whova frame for your session open so that they can be keeping track of the chat and the Q&A.
Okay.
And whoever that person is needs to make sure that the Whova platform is on mute so that you're not hearing yourself in feedback audio loop.
Okay. Cool. Point I'm making though is that if you're a speaker, do not access your session through the box for participants or attendees in Whova.
Correct.
Okay.
Or at least if you do that, don't expect to be able to talk because you're just going to be viewing the broadcast. Okay. Screen sharing. You can choose in your session whether you prefer to have one person with all of the slides and have all of the speakers be asking you to do next, 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 or whether people each have their own presentations that they have control over. I tend to prefer the latter because I find the whole next slide business somewhat distracting as an audience member, but you should go with whatever is most comfortable for your panel. That being said, people should all be prepared to share their own slides in case anything has a technical hiccup. In advance, it's helpful if you share backup copies of your slides with your fellow panelists, again, in case you're the one who has a technical hiccup. Try doing a practice run in the next week or so with your panelists so that everybody gets a chance to try out doing the transitions and practicing screen sharing so you know how it is you want to handle that. And test for lags, etc. We recommend, if possible, using a wired connection instead of relying on Wi-Fi, since that can get a little buggy. If you're using video playback, remember when you click share screen to also click the little checkbox at the bottom that says share computer sound. We also recommend very, very strongly that A, you do not try to embed your video in your presentation because that causes bugs of its own. And B, if it's possible to play it from a locally downloaded copy on your computer as opposed to trying to stream it from YouTube, that tends to lead to the best quality playback. Again, fewer lags, less scritchiness in translation, etc. So if you have the opportunity to do a download of whatever video it is you need to show and be able to play it directly from your own computer, that is going to be the best possible viewer experience. Second to that would be open your video in a separate window in YouTube or Vimeo or whatever playback mode you need. And, you know, please, please, please don't try to embed it in your presentation because that's just like too many degrees of separation and stuff gets very glitchy. That being said, whatever platform you like best for being able to do your presentation that works on your computer is going to work as part of the presentation because it's all locally hosted. You're showing what's on your computer screen. So if you like PowerPoint, if you like Keynote, if you like Google Slides, any of those work. You know, what I ended up doing is this screen that you're seeing right now is actually my Google Slides downloaded into a PDF form because I find that makes for a fairly clean viewer experience. But you can do whatever works best for you. Just remember, if you're sharing your screen and you're using, say, the presenter notes option for PowerPoint, people will be able to see your presenter notes because they can see whatever you're seeing on your screen. Okay. And there we go. There is, of course, the question about what do we do if everything crashes? Don't panic. Everybody understands technology can be annoying. Do your troubleshooting, restart your browser if you need to, your computer, your Wi-Fi router, whatever that is. Everyone understands. Go to your backup, you know, call in by phone, use your co-presenter's copy of your slides, etc. Option of last resort, if you know you're in an area with really bad internet service and you would like to pre-record your session and to just be participating live essentially as an audience member, interacting with your audience. You don't have to be presenting live at the time. If that is what you would prefer to do, we are happy to do that. So, you know, if you know you're in an area where internet service is notoriously unreliable and that's the way you want to go, we encourage that. You know, a couple of people did that last year. It worked really well. So it is not a diminution of the audience experience. It works out fine. Okay. Back to extra things. Reminder about breakout sessions. If you feel like you need to be able to do breakout rooms or conversation, let me know by November 5th. Same if you have any kind of accessibility requests, please let me know by November 5th. Again, conference ambassador or NEMA staff will be enabling the live auto transcription on the Zoom room, so people should be able to access that. But if for any reason you need an actual live transcriber as opposed to the AI version, or if you need ASL or any other accessibility options, please let us know by the end of this week so that we have time to arrange for that, and we will do the best we can. Reminder about Q&A and chat. This is a screenshot of what the Whova platform looks like. So when the session goes live, the video screen will be right above where the title says bigger impact there. So it will be, the video feed will be right there. Then over on the side, you've got chat and Q&A options that will, live scroll as people are writing things in. For most of you, that is where all of that audience interaction is happening. If you are doing meeting format where everybody's getting bounced out of Whova, you'll use the Zoom chat instead. And remind people at the beginning that you want them to use the Zoom chat rather than the Whova chat, because otherwise you're going to have to keep track of two different windows. All right. Handouts and resources. We highly recommend that the sooner you can get any handouts that you would like your attendees to have to us, the better. So you can go to the conference section of the NEMA website, and there's a link for handouts. And thank you, Scarlett. And there's a link to submit any handouts. Your handouts can include copies of your slides, lists of resources, any links you're planning on sharing with people that you want to just be able to put on a list, all of that kind of information, anything that is helpful to people. If you can get that to us before Monday, November 15th, that would be really good. It is not an automatic upload kind of process where you hit submit and it just exists. Somebody on the back end, i.e. Heather, has to update the website and, upload your documents and get them listed under the proper session in that section of the website. So if you can get yourself together to be able to get those handouts to us in advance, that is really helpful. We will keep updating that during the run of conference, but it will not be instantaneous. So yeah. The other good thing about getting your handouts in early, especially if you're doing things like copies of your slides, is that that's also an accessibility assist for anybody who might need that on the audience end. Sometimes people like to print them out and take notes and that kind of thing. All right, there is an in-platform meetup option, which we will go over in more detail in a second. They do have basically a platform where if you do not have, say, a Zoom or GoToMeeting or Google Meet kind of link that you want to use that's pre-set up, they can host it for you. It's not like wildly stable. So if you do have your own Zoom account or you prefer using Google Meet or whatever, we recommend importing an external link, and we will show you how to do that in a second. Folks have also asked about land acknowledgements. We will be doing a land acknowledgement at the beginning of conference. You are welcome to do one at the beginning of your session if you are so moved. We've got some resources on our website about, thank you, Scarlett. She reads my mind. So yes, some resources on how to write a land acknowledgement in a meaningful way right there in the chat for you to follow. And if you have any questions about that, any of us here on staff would also be happy to talk to you about it. All right, virtual meetup. So here in Whova, you can see the screenshot for what this section of the platform looks like is under the community tab. And you go to the meetups section and go to the blue button that says suggest a meet, select virtual meet. So it doesn't say like, meet me at the Starbucks on the corner, because no one's going to know where that is. So fill in the title and description, and then you can use the built-in meeting function, or that's where you can insert your own URL for your own Zoom account, Google Meet, however it is you prefer to do that. Let people know how long it's going to last, date and time, et cetera, submit, and then it will turn up as an option for people to do a meetup within the run of conference. I recommend doing informal meetups on Tuesday and Thursday, since Monday, Wednesday, Friday are pretty well packed with conference sessions. But whatever day and time works for you. Sometimes people like to use this option to be able to continue a conversation after a session is over. Or, if something kind of comes up in the session and you don't have time to explore it, you can set up a discussion topic for later so that you can get back to that, etc. So you can do kind of anything you want in this virtual meetup setup, as long as you're following the rules of NEMA's code of conduct. And so, you can have a meetup to discuss cupcake recipes if that's what you want. It doesn't have to be on topic to conference. You can just have more of a social gathering, but that's how to do it. And, that is entirely within your own power. It's, the virtual equivalent of having a hallway conversation in the conference hotel. All right. Here is a potential example as a framework off which you can build your own land acknowledgement. And before I keep going, I'm just going to pause for another minute and see if anybody's got any other questions thus far. I'm following my own tips for a virtual presentation and pausing periodically to check for questions. Okay. Do better than I am doing in today's presentation at keeping your slides simple. Lots and lots of text is actually very distracting. It tends to lead to people reading the screen instead of listening to what you're saying. Speak slowly, if possible, better than I've been doing. And if you have a headset with microphone capabilities, that can be really helpful in terms of eliminating background noise to help with audio during your session. So whether that's AirPods or a full headset or whatever. Pause and invite interaction. Make sure you're not leaving your audience in the dust. Appoint a question wrangler for each presenter. So as you're going through your panelists, have somebody else on the panel be the one who's watching the questions and the chat to be able to, again, kind of interrupt conversationally to say, hey, that's a very good point. Somebody in the chat wanted to elaborate on that. Could you talk more about XYZ? And if you plan on sharing links and resources while you're talking, it really helps if you have a list of those links pre-collected so you can be just copying and pasting it and dropping them in the chat as you go, rather than having to be looking things up or, be pulling them from a bunch of open browser tabs and that kind of thing. To that point, try not to have a bazillion open browser tabs. I am like a terrible person for this. I regularly have somewhere between 20 and 40 browser tabs open and my computer does not appreciate it. So for the sake of bandwidth, try to make sure that you only have what you need for the presentation to open while you're giving your presentation. So there we go. Getting back to pre-recording your session. If you're planning on doing that, please let us know so we don't set you up a meeting link that you're not going to end up needing. Use your own video conferencing platform and account to do it. Record your session with all your presenters, edit it however you need to, and then send it to the main conference email address, conference@nemanet.org, via Dropbox or whatever other file transfer program you prefer, since the videos are always too large to actually get emailed. And please do that by this Friday. Or at minimum, let us know by this Friday. And if it takes you a few more days to get us the video, we can work with that. Okay. Last bit is just the reminder that we do have a code of conduct. We very, very rarely run into any issues, but be aware it exists, have a quick read through, be aware of what's going on in your session in case there's anything uncomfortable happening in the chat or things like that. If you notice anything that you have concerns about, please let us know, because we can't do anything to make things better if we don't hear there was, an uncomfortable interaction until 3 weeks later with identities removed. There's nothing we can do about that. So on the, extreme unlikely thing where somebody might run into an issue, please just let us know. The contact information is all in the code of conduct. You can reach out to any of us on staff if that's, directly, if that's what you prefer. Or, flag the conference ambassador and ask them to step in at the time. And that is the end of the prepared spiel. What questions do people still have that we can help answer for you? Now that I've dumped a ton of information on your heads at just barely 10 in the morning. Yes, Dan.
Hi, I'm a participant here, not Dan. So thinking about my own session, I would like to be able to use some kind of interactivity with the participants. Now, this is going to be a Zoom session that's interactive, so it's a meeting. Can I use something such as Jamboard or something to do like idea generation, and how would I actually do that kind of a thing?
Sure. Couple of different options. Obviously, if you want people to be able to participate, you need to make sure that you're dropping the link to the Jamboard in the chat so everybody knows how to get there. And the other question would be, you can either depend on everybody to have that open on their own screens. You may want to also share the screen as a presenter so that people can kind of see stuff popping up. And I would recommend just testing that with Rainey and see how you feel about how it looks and whether it's, confusing to potentially have multiple windows open or not.
Right. So you would have to ask your participants to toggle between the Zoom interface and a separate window that would have them participating. So, okay.
Yeah.
But that's how you would do it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And for folks who aren't familiar with Jamboard, it's essentially like virtual Post-it notes. And, it's a slightly visually more interesting version of like having an open Google Doc that everybody can be typing in while you're having a virtual meeting. Catherine, go ahead.
Hi, so just summarizing to make sure that I'm on the right page. As presenters, we'll get a Zoom link. We should be on there about 10 minutes ahead of time. One of us in the panel should also be on Whova, which should be muted to monitor for questions and answers. Or questions, we'll do the answers. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
You got it. Absolutely. All right.
I wanted to go back to in the beginning, you said something about the ambassador would thank the sponsors or play a video. Is it still okay if we take a minute to thank the sponsor, or is the video enough? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure they would appreciate it.
We just built it in for a few seconds. So
okay. That's great. No problem at all. Yeah, we mostly have the ambassadors worry about playing the videos just so that it's one less thing for the speakers to have to stress about.
As the contact for sponsors and exhibitors, that makes my heart happy. So thank you.
Yes. One of the things I forgot to put in the presentation, but which came up last time around, is we don't have, nifty little yellow slips of paper sitting on everybody's seats, but please do remind people that conference evaluation is still a thing. And, we would love to hear from them about how the sessions are going. And there is a button on everybody's session that is, take the, session survey. So encourage people to fill out their conference evaluations. That is always really helpful. And also, if you are getting to the end of your session and nobody has questions and you are afraid of dead air, please go ahead and encourage them to go visit the exhibit hall as well. Because, we really want to support the businesses that are continuing to support us, even when they aren't able to make face-to-face connections at a regular conference. So yes, thank you, Heather. We are also doing a Whova walkthrough if anybody wants to kind of be able to walk through the platform, not as a speaker, but as an attendee, next Monday at 4 p.m. So Heather's dropped the registration link in for that if you want to be able to do that. Also, technically the platform is live at the moment. So if you want to be able to get in there and noodle around a little, you can do that. If you still, have the app on your phone from last year or whatever. Jen, go ahead.
What is the code for Whova? I was just trying to get in and it says, what's your code? Like, I don't
Okay,
know.
that's a Heather or Scarlett question.
And I think if you are registered and you're registering with the email that you in 2021 used to register, it should automatically link you. But Heather, what are your thoughts?
Oh,
It should automatically let you in. Are you trying to update the app from last year, Jan?
no, what do you call it? Deleted it from last year. So I was just like, oh, while we're here, I'll just log in so I don't forget. And
Okay.
and
Let
it
me give
says-
you the direct link on our site. It's not, I'll make it available to everybody to view from the website instead of this link here. Give me 1 second.
No, I can't find
And Jan, it looks like the email we have on file for the attendee is jcrocker14@gmail.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Sometimes we have issues where people register with one email and then they try to log into Whova with a different email, especially if people have been changing jobs or other things in the last couple of years. That can throw things off because you end up with like multiple Whova profiles. It even happened to me. That was kind of hilarious.
No, that hasn't happened to me before. Now I've lost the conference. Woo.
All right. Well, we're happy to help you with that offline, Jan.
Yeah, whatever. Yes, that would be fine. I might need help. I'll
No
get back.
problem. All right. Is there anybody else with any other questions? We're very excited you're all here. It's going to be a great week of conference. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. See you in a
Bye.
few
Thank
weeks.
you.